What is up, my dudes? Nate here, and word on the street is that you want to make a gaming YouTube video, but you just are having some trouble with Premiere. Well, I'm here to help however I can. This is very much an improv tutorial, so I will goof up. I can guarantee it right now. Don't hold me too accountable. Just that being said, this is to help you learn based off of what I do. So this is also not going to be all inclusive for different videos you'll make with Premiere, but I'm going to show you how I use Premiere, the steps that I go through whenever I make a YouTube video, and hopefully you can kind of take that knowledge and use it however you need to. And just go from there. This is a frame of reference, guys. It's a frame of reference. Anywho, to start off with, when you go into a new project with Premiere Pro, you're going to be greeted with this screen. I typically just go, I will name the project. It's important to know your vocabulary, guys. The project's name is whatever game I'm doing, and then the date, so that I can go back and reference it by the date if I need to change anything or re-render or whatever. So, in this case, we're just going to do tutorial and then 99016. And then I have the location is where the project file is saved, not the actual video, but the project file is saved. And I've got an external hard drive where I save all that stuff. Not everybody does, so you're gonna just decide where you want to do that, but that's all completely up to you. In your video rendering and playback settings, I have it set to Mercury Playback Engine GPU Acceleration CUDA, which basically means that it is using the CUDA CUDA cores on my graphics card to offload the rendering workload. Where it's not just purely on my CPU side. So the computer's not doing all the work. Some of the graphics card is taking some pressure off the processor. So if you have a bad graphics card, it's not, you don't want that turned on. Or if your graphics card is dying or having any sort of issues, go to just Mercury Playback Engine software only, because otherwise you can crash your computer, and that won't be good. So if you don't have a beefy graphics card, just go with software only, I would say. But for me, I have a good card, invested a lot in that, so gonna go with Mercury Playback Engine GPU Acceleration. Anywho, the display format, I do keep in frames. You can have in time code, whatever. I keep it in frames. The audio, I have set to audio samples. Capture format is not relevant for doing the YouTube videos, because that's something for if you're recording on an external camera and you're importing using a cable to import the video, so DV or HDV. Those are not relevant at all to this, so you can just keep it at DV, doesn't matter. If you go to scratch disks, it's the same sort of thing as with the location up here. It's just where to save the video, the audio, the previews, the audio previews, the project autosave, yada yada yada. I just keep it all same as the project. It keeps it all organized. So, anywho, we're gonna just hop right in. When you first get in here, you'll know it's a nice little workstation for me. You've got up here is your kind of presets for the layout of how you want things. Different windows can be kind of combined however you want to have things going. Editing is pretty close to how I already have my stuff. I just, actually, I think that is pretty much exactly how I already have my stuff. But you got different settings, different presets you can do. You can edit them, you can change them, you can make your own. I made my own, which is I just named it YouTube, so I know that I'm making my YouTube videos. Then, over in your left-hand corner, you've got your project window. This is where it shows all your media, your sequences, everything that's in the project is shown in this video, or in this window here. This is where you basically edit anything. it mess with any sort of setting. So effect controls, audio clip mixer, changing the metadata for the video, or if you're looking at the source video that you then import into the timeline. Over here in this window is just my preview. It's just my big preview window. Whenever I am going in and editing a project in the timeline, it'll show where I'm at up here live, which is obviously quite useful and pretty much necessary. I have my media browser. This is the timeline, of course. Pretty self-explanatory. This is my media browser window. I also have effects, libraries, like CC libraries and everything. All that kind of set up. So, but mostly I just use media browser and effects because I don't use the Creative Cloud with Adobe. I don't have a use for a cloud service for what I do. So I just use media browser, and I have like all my different saves, my favorited things. So in this case, I usually go to raw footage for most of my videos because that's where my capture feeds to. But for this, in this case, I'm going to go to my video assets because I already kind of prepped everything. So we're just going to go to this folder, where we are going to import this video file. And what we do is we go to the timeline and we hit Control-N, and that brings up a new sequence. You can, sorry guys. You can either go off of these settings that they've already got, all these presets that they've already got, or you can make your own. I did make my own, which you guys will probably want to go off of if you're doing a similar setup. If you're doing YouTube gaming videos, I record I record at 1080p at 60 FPS. So I made a sequence preset the same. And basically what that means, it's all these settings here. My time base is in 60 FPS. Frame size is 1920 by 1080. Again, at 60 FPS. Square pixels. No fields progressive scan. 4,800 samples per second. 48,000 samples. I always say 4,800. 48,000 samples per second. I keep 3 video tracks on by default. I keep it on stereo audio, and I have 3 audio tracks. I don't necessarily use all of them, but they're just kind of there in case I want to drag and drop something extra in. And then this is just kind of another way to look at it. I just went to custom, 60 FPS, 920 by 1080 square, no field, 60 FPS time code, yada, yada, yada. Video previews is kind of up to your own preferences. It's just the previews. That doesn't affect your output, really. Your tracks is how I set it up earlier. Anyways, as far as I go for naming, you can also save that preset, and then it's just in there every time you want to hop in. And you can have multiple ones, of course. Pretty self-explanatory there. My sequence names, I go by the actual episode name. So I would say, like, this is tutorial 01. And then when I upload it, I'll change the name around as I need. But I'll just go off of, like, what game it is, and then the episode number, and then I put in the title and everything when I upload it. So there's okay. It brings up the sequence. Look at that nice little timeline there. I've got 3 video tracks here, and double click to open those wider, and 3 audio tracks, which you don't really need. Again, I don't usually open up all 3. I usually open up 1 video track and 2 audio tracks. Because that's usually how I import with all my videos. That's what I use for all my videos. So we just drag and drop it. We could put it over to this project window, but then we'd have to drag it onto here anyways, and there's just no need. I am going to go ahead and switch where it organizes those by type. So tutorial 01 is obviously the sequence. And then that is the video file. So it shows the sequences in it and the video file. And you can delete those or reorder them or however you want to do in there. But anyways, I digress. Back to the timeline. When you first load it in, the first thing I do is I go to my effects. And I go to my presets. And I drop in my dynamics processor. Which is something it's a preset that I've done that changes my audio. You know what? I will go ahead and show you guys. I'm going to go ahead and remove it from the second audio track, because the second audio track is my game's audio, which has already been processed, and they don't need to. That's part of their development, is they process the game audio. I don't need to process the game audio again. I just need to process what I'm saying. So I'm going to go ahead and show you where to find it and then how to make your own preset of that really quick. So, not audio transitions, audio effects. Under effects, so you drop down audio effects, and then you go to dynamics, and you drag and drop that onto your audio track again. You can technically, you can apply it to only one track if you select the track ahead of time, but I wasn't paying attention, and both times I applied it to both. Anyways, so you drop down dynamics on there, then you make sure you're highlighted on effect controls up here, and it'll show everything you've applied. So I've got both my dynamics processor and my regular dynamics, my default dynamics on there. So for now, ignore the dynamics processor one. Just look at the default. We're going to hit edit, and it'll open up this nice little window here that shows you all your numbers and gadgets and gizmos aplenty. So what I have checked for mine is my auto gate, compressor, soft clip. I have the auto turned off for that, and I have my limiter turned on. And this is what it looks like by default. We're going to close out, though, and we're going to look at what my preset actually does. So these are the numbers, and this is how I've got mine set up already. These are the numbers I go by. They will vary from person to person, because different people have different voices. Your waveform is going to appear differently based on how you talk. But this is a good preset to go off of. You can kind of change it around as you need to. But to understand how to do that, it's good to understand what each of these things does. Your auto gate, in some other programs it's called an audio gate, or a noise gate, is basically, it prevents audio below a certain threshold from coming through on a certain track, I guess. Like, basically, I'm trying to think of a good way to explain this. Basically, it means that if it's below the negative 36 decibel threshold, no sound will come through at all. But if your volume is above that threshold, whatever sound is picked up by the mic will come through. It just basically like turns the mic on and off based on the threshold, which is very helpful for background noise. So, for instance, if I stop talking now, you won't hear any noise at all. You won't hear any sound, just nada. But when I talk, you'll hear myself, and slightly you'll hear my air conditioner in the background, because I refuse to turn that off. It gets too hot. The benefit of the auto gate is, again, when you're not talking, it prevents any sound from going through background noise, so it's less noticeable. And then even when you are talking, you're the more prominent sound, so typically people won't hear the background noise over you. Now, of course, I've said that I've got the air conditioner in the background, and now all you are going to hone in and go, "Oh no, I hear it. Dummy Nate mentioned the air conditioner in the background. Now we're going to hear for every video." Well, sorry, you wanted to know my process. So that's what the auto gate does. The threshold is obviously the set numerical value for the volume that you have to hit for it to turn on the mic, essentially. The attack is how quickly it opens up the gate. The release is how quickly it closes the gate. And the hold is how long it holds the gate open, listening for more sound. So 1 millisecond after I stop talking, it'll close the gate, and then it'll take 100 milliseconds to actually close it. It only takes 10 milliseconds to open it from the moment I say something. I'm pretty sure that's the minimum. Like, I think that's the fastest it can open. Soft clip, I'll be honest, I don't know what soft clip does, but I assume it makes it less. I'm assuming it softens the blow of the auto gate, where it doesn't just like just right in your face, I guess. I don't know. It's the best way I can describe it with weird sound effects. It basically where it doesn't just make awful snapping noises or whatever. Anywho, the compressor, I do know how that works though. Basically, that goes off of a threshold. Again, all these go off of thresholds. It works really well like that. Your threshold is the minimum volume that it outputs, basically. So if you are talking below that threshold, or if there's volume below that threshold, then the compressor will activate and it'll kind of scoot it up to at least reach that volume threshold. So if I'm talking and there's somebody else talking in the room or something, or if I start to whisper for a second, or if I whatever, the threshold, it'll pull it up to the threshold, so that's the minimum volume that'll go through. So the quieter parts of the video are going to be pulled up louder, so that you don't have to like turn up the volume to hear whispering, basically. And that attack, release, all that fun stuff. Then the expander is the opposite of the compressor, so that is not what we want to do. That's good for like music or like movies or something, but strictly speaking, that expands the dynamic range of the waveform. Obviously, you see all these like spikes. I'll go from like really loud to quiet and everything, and basically the compressor pulls all that closer together. The limiter. The compressor, basically between the compressor and the limiter together, they make the waveform look a little bit more like this, the post-processed game audio. Anywho, the limiter, what it does is it will, if there's volume over a certain threshold, for instance, in this case, it's -7 decibels, it will stop that. Basically, it'll pull it down to that threshold. So basically, if I scream in the mic annoyingly like this, it sounds very distorted because it's pulling it down to that volume. But the benefit is I'm not blowing out your ears. It may sound annoying, but it would be a lot volume-wise. It would be a lot louder if I didn't have the limiter on. And basically, if you're watching the video and if you're playing a video with these on, it'll show that in real time how that works. Which I guess I can go ahead and. Psychonauts out for you. I'm gonna get more into doing this as a regular thing. So you can kind of see it. Green is the audio gate is on. So I'll be on Mondays through Fridays, weekdays. And then any additional stuff I'll do on my weekends. And then as the compressor comes on, it's showing it like the compression, how far it compresses. So red means the audio gate is off, yellow means it's starting to turn off, starting to close, and green means it's wide open, basically, because there is audio feeding through right then. So, limiter prevents spikes, compressor pulls up the quiet stuff, auto gate means that there's basically no background noise unless you are talking to activate it. And that's basically that. Again, copy these numbers down. This is how I recommend you at least starting your stuff. You're going to have to, if you are working with multiple people especially, you're going to have to fiddle around with the threshold. Basically, the idea of the threshold for the auto gate specifically is that you want it quiet enough, you want the threshold low enough that you speak higher than the threshold, so it picks up your mic. But you want the threshold higher than any background noise. So you got to kind of fiddle around with it. Based on your recording environment, based on how loud you are speaking or how close your mic is to you, you're going to have to fiddle with that, because otherwise you'll have dead space or you'll have too much background noise coming through, and which defeats the point of the auto gate. You do not want any of this on for game audio if you can avoid it. Basically, here's the thing. If you are recording everything on one audio track, I wouldn't recommend doing this. I mean, maybe the limiter, but I wouldn't recommend putting on the compressor or auto gate. One, the auto gate the game volume will not activate the auto gate, and then you'll just have game volume cutting out. So if your mic and game volume are on, and game audio are on the same track, don't turn on the auto gate. I wouldn't turn on the compressor either, because then it's going to pull your volume and the game's volume closer together, which is going to make you harder to hear when you're trying to talk over the game because your volumes are going to be closer together. And so I wouldn't do that. The only thing I would turn on if you're on the same audio track is the limiter to prevent spikes again, because that won't really affect the... Oh my gosh. No, I can't talk right now. Sorry, phone call, guys. That's super unprofessional. I'm expecting important phone calls, which is why I leave my phone unmuted. Anyways, sorry. So the limiter prevents audio spikes. It's not going to really affect the game audio, but that'll affect your blah, 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 your mic in case you scream or something in frustration, like I do all the time when I mess up on games. Anywho, so that is the dynamics. And then you can just, once you do that, you can just right-click, save preset, put a name for it. I put Dynamics Processor because that's exactly what it is. I know what it is. And then I can just drag and drop it onto the audio tracks as I go whenever I play new games. Yay! So that's one thing done. Then, the second, so that's the first thing I do. Once you get all that set up and you have the preset saved, it's literally just put the video track in and drop the effect on. There you go. So that's two things. It usually takes about 2 seconds to do all that. It's just the setup and understanding it is what seems very overwhelming. I know. So then we are going to... Basically, I go and find when I first start talking in the video file and kind of clip just a little bit before it. And what I do is I cut off the extra dead time in the recording. So what I do is I go Control-Shift-K to slice through all 3 tracks, video and both audio tracks. Cuts at that point. Then I drag and highlight all 3 of those tracks and hit delete. And then you can either highlight these and drag them back to the beginning, or drag them around as needed, or you can just click one of the tracks and hit delete and it'll pull it back. It'll pull it back to the last connected track or the beginning of the video in this case. So, and then I hit home to go back to move the playhead back to the beginning of the timeline, and hit space to play where I was. What is up, my dudes? And then that's the beginning of the video. Then I go to the end of the video, and I find the very end of the video. I'll talk to you guys later. And sometimes I get it cut off immediately. If I don't get it cut off immediately, I do the same thing. I just highlight all through the track, or I find where I want to cut off. I cut off. I highlight all 3 of the tracks, delete, and I don't have to do anything special there. I just deleted it. That's the end of the video. Done. But we're gonna keep that there for the sake of the video because that's it was a good ending anyways. I caught it pretty much immediately. Then I go back to the beginning by hitting home again. Home and end, move to the beginning and into the timeline video. Then I find a spot where I usually watch the video through and find something that there, auto saves. That's a nice feature because I always botch something up and then have to go back. So I usually watch the video through and find if I want to add something special, like a title. So if I want to add a title, you hit Control-T, and it'll bring up your new title menu. And your titles are text. They're text for a video. So we're going to call this title Butts. And we're going to hit Enter. Okay. Okay. And then it brings up this other window for your title. Okay. So then right here, I'm just going to click and I'm going to hit type out Butts. Okay. Okay. Then you've got all your sort of word processing, word formatting stuff over here, your different fonts, yada yada. You can make it bigger or smaller by kind of clicking and dragging, or clicking on it and typing in your numbers, whatever. But I always just click and drag because I can just do it as I want. So I want Butts right there. All right, Butts in big bold letters. But that's not the font I want. I have a different preset for my stuff, which I can't see because this window is too big right now. Always the professional. There we go. Make the window a little bit smaller. Okay, so I have a preset, so I just click on and highlight the text and then hit my preset, which is that, and that's really big. So we're just going to shrink that preset down. But this is the preset font I have. If you want to see all that stuff, I will stretch this window back out. Sorry. We'll eventually get all this working properly. Switch to the selection tool so I can just kind of move it around. So you can move the text around as you want with the selection tool. There we go. Looks lovely right there. So Playtime with Hot Toddies is the font I use. I use regular font style. It's a great font name. I love it. And then I always do a white fill with, or typically, there's rare cases when I change, but I typically do a white fill with a outer stroke that is black at size 6.0 outer stroke, because basically the most, scientifically speaking, the most visible subtitle or text you could add for a video is to have a white fill with a black outline. That means that if it's a light background, you'll see the outline, you'll see the black outline to make it distinguishable, and if it's a black background, you'll see the white, make it distinguishable. So either way, it's very visible. I also add a drop shadow, and these are my settings for my drop shadow. That I do a 135 degree angle, a distance of 10, opacity of 18, and I keep the color black. So if you can kind of see it visible there, it's fairly difficult to see, but it's there. It's there. Anyways, then you just exit out, and you'll see it's right there in your project window, and you just click and drag it down to the video that you want to put it on. You'll want to put it on one above the video track so it's actually visible. So it's right there, and you can put it wherever you want in the timeline. By default, it's this long, but you can stretch it out to be even longer. And then what we're going to do is, hold on, I'm going to have to tab out for one quick second because I need to post today's video. It's uploaded, I just need to actually publish it, so give me a second, guys. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. Anyways, trying to multitask here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get into some more advanced stuff called it's not even called that. It's not called fee. It's called keyframe animation. This is not necessary for everybody, but it's, if you want to add a little bit more pizzazz to your video, have some fun with it, this is the way to do it. You click on what you want to animate. In this case, we're going to animate the text butts to bring up that track, and then it brings up here, you got effect controls. We're going to go to motion and drop down that. These little timers here toggle the animation. So we're going to toggle position, scale, and rotation. And basically, as that drops anchors at this point, it knows it's supposed to be at that point, at this point in the timeline. So it dropped those little keyframes there right then where I turned that on. Now it's going to automatically calculate what to do in between keyframes. So it knows that it needs to be here at this point in the timeline. But earlier on in the timeline, we're going to just move the track back to the beginning of when it appears in the timeline. We're going to say it's going to be slightly smaller. So we shrunk it down. We're going to say it's rotated that much. That much. And we're going to say it needs to be... no, it's good height. Move that back. Okay, and then we're going to move it off the screen. So at the beginning, it's going to be off the screen, and it's put points down for each one of those. They're all recorded separately, and you can adjust it as you need to, but those are all recorded separately, and they go off of the time of when you want to do it. Whenever you change something, if you're on a different point in the timeline, it'll put down a keyframe for that point to know that at this point in the timeline, it's supposed to be at this position, this scale, this rotation, yada yada. There's other things you can do like opacity, whatever. Then, once you do that, you just hit play and it'll show it's your Friday thing. So, let's have some fun. It moved it from one position to the other as it knew it had to. And if you want it to go faster, you just highlight the keyframes and you scoot them closer. So it'll go. It'll be a Monday through Friday thing. Just the same thing faster. You want it to go slower? Oop, I grabbed the wrong thing. Sometimes you have to zoom in to make this a little bit easier, but I'm gonna have to do that. So to zoom in, you can't. You have to do that. You have to drag the little bar and kind of shrink the bar down to zoom in some. Okay, to make it take longer, highlight them all, drag them all away. let's have some fun. Let's get another. You can move those individually if you want to make one thing finish before the other. So the rotation I want done before it is fully out, so I can do that. Monday through Friday thing. So it's already done rotating before it moved out. So you can do, again, you can mess with different things. It does all the calculations for you. That's keyframe animation. Really quickly, I'm going to show you though, if you want, typically if you move text in fancy, you probably don't want it to just disappear off screen. So you probably want to move it off. So what you then do is you move forward. And at this point, it knows from based on the last key. I can't even talk today, guys. I'm so sorry. It knows based on the last keyframes, it's in the same position from the last keyframes you have. So you're going to move forward. And if you want it to stay still until it goes off, which you typically want to do, you move it to where you want it in the timeline, to where you want it to start moving again. And then you click on these to drop more keyframes, just manually. Then you go to a little bit further in the timeline, and that's where you go, okay, now I want it off the screen. So to remove the text from the screen, I'm going to up the scale, and I'm going to actually, I goofed. I'm going to go back to here and have it at, hold on, because I want to do opacity, so I got to add an opacity one there. Whoops. And actually, a little bit before that, before it's fully like blown up, I'm gonna put opacity down to, or opacity, however you want to say it, down to 0. So it basically disappears a little bit before it gets to full size. So we'll watch the full thing. A Monday through Friday thing. Spins in, yada yada. Fun. Let's get another. Stays for a while, and then, and that's it off the screen. That's your keyframe animation. You want it to be on, you want your title to be on the screen long enough to have your animations, but it doesn't need to be on there any longer. As soon as it goes off the screen, it's fine. Also, in the same manner, you can go back to your media browser and add pictures or other videos or GIFs or whatever. So just by dragging and dropping them on the timeline as well. So I want to put this up there. So one does not simply stop posting annoying memes. And you can do the same sort of keyframe animations with that. I'm not going to show you all that again. But it basically butt spins in. Let's have some fun. Let's get another. And then sorted out. There we go. There's that. There's that. Okay. So that's that. Then I put the stuff in. If you want to add music or stuff, you can. In another audio track, it's right there. Boom, you can put another music thingy in there. Great, not a problem. If you want more music. If something is on top of the other, you just swap it around. Where butts is over. Fun, let's get that. Whatever, so it's just the level, the higher the number, the higher it is in visibility, in layers. So then, we've done all that. We've actually, done everything in prep for the video because we already finished up the video. So then we hit Control M to bring up the exporting menu. And here's some more numbers for you guys to write down some presets. Yay! Everybody's favorite. All right. My preset, I've already set, it's YouTube 1080p. Because again, I'm exporting at 1080p at 60 FPS. If you need to change it, if you are recording, I meant to mention this earlier, if you're recording in 720p, at 30 FPS, you need to set that up in the sequence kind of ahead of time, so it doesn't have to upscale the sequence or anything or whatever. It's just, bottom line, sequence and export settings need to be set at the size and frame rate you're looking at. And for the most part, you can match sequence settings, but I've changed some things to make it a little bit better exporting wise. So that's why I made my own preset. Anyways, so this is my output. And this was the source sequence. You can kind of just copy this down, but this is where you'd actually put it in. Effects, I'm not doing anything with that. That's a little bit fancy for my taste. Video, you do want it at 1920 by 1080. You do want it at, you do want it at 60 FPS. You want it progressive scan. You want square pixels. You want NTSC because that's the TV standard for the USA and Japan. If you're international, obviously, and you are doing Europe or Asia, you will be using the PAL format. But because we're in the US, we are going to use NTSC TV standard. The profile is main. I could up it to high, but I don't need that necessarily. I'm not in that big of a hurry for exporting. I don't know what that level is, honestly. I'll be perfectly honest, but I check marked it to match the source video, so apparently that's what it's supposed to be. As well as most of these are matched to the video, like I said. My bitrate settings are where it gets different. You have a choice between constant bitrate or variable bitrate, 1 pass or 2 pass. Well, I like variable bitrate. I seem to have more success with that, less like sync issues. And that depends on the type of video you're making as well. But with what I'm doing, I do variable bitrate, and I do 2 pass because it'll again allow it renders it basically twice over. Takes a little bit longer to render, but it allows for less like glitches in the video, less audio video sync issues. And then I set my target bitrate to 8 for both, or target and maximum bitrate both to 8, and that's all that. If I'm doing an especially fancy video, I will do maximum render quality because it's better quality scaling, but increases the encoding time. But I don't always do that because it's not usually necessary with what I do. But in case there's like one video that I'm like, okay, this is a prettier game, I want it to look, especially pretty, I'll check that. I also have a preset for that, which is it's the same thing. It just has that checked, so I can just go do a preset already. Your output name is, you want to click on that to put your output destination. I did the same thing with, again, I have my separate external hard drive that I render to. So I go into video rendering, which is external drive, and then I go to upload queue, and then I put the name in, I hit save, and it's going to export it to upload queue. Then you have a choice between queue or export. Export exports it right now inside Adobe Premiere Pro. The problem with that is it means you can't do any more editing or anything with Adobe Premiere Pro. It takes up all the assets for Premiere Pro. So what I like to do, if you have Adobe Media Encoder, which you should have because it's free, you hit the queue button, and it adds it to Media Encoder's queue. And see, there it goes. Popped right up. It's in the queue. Wonderful. It will have to boot up Media Encoder, but I already had Media Encoder booted up in the background, so it just brought it up to the surface. So it takes like a few more seconds to load up, not a big issue. Then it's just in there. It's got all your presets. You can either hit enter or go up here and hit the start. You can add multiple things to your queue, and it'll just render those one at a time. Again, render, I have it set to CUDA, same sort of thing as earlier. But you just hit enter. And while that's going, you can then minimize it, and you can just bring this back up and add more videos. You can hit in to make another sequence. You can make more sequences. Each sequence is a separate video. You can close those out. If you are making, one possibility is you can record one big string of videos, one big string of episodes, and then you can add it in the first sequence as your big string of episodes. Then you can make separate sequences. Oh gosh, I keep hitting the wrong button. You make separate sequences to then cut those individual episodes out and do that. But I record my episodes separately, so I just do I just put the video in as I need it. It's already basically cut by the video program, so I don't gotta worry about that shit. Anyways, if you have audio, my audio and everything is already pre-synced, so that's not an issue for me. But in case you record your audio and video separately, or so not your audio and video separate. If you record your audio, your game audio and your mic audio separately, you will have to resync. And the way to do that is in game, do something where you are like clicking on the menu or something as you're saying click, 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 or something where you know to string up the mic audio with the game audio and the game video, where you audio visual sync ups. That's a manual thing, and you can drag and drop those around as you need to. If you need to zoom in on the timeline, you can hold down Alt and scroll up on the mouse wheel, and it'll zoom into a specific point in the timeline up to that, which is just an insane closeness. Look, if y'all hit play,
do more recording,
like that's how fast that goes by. If you want to zoom out, hold down Alt and mouse wheel out. So that's a super shortcut that's going to help you guys out. Anyways, I basically showed you everything. That basically does it. I've exported, then I just upload. If you want to know how to set up your recording software to record the game audio and the game audio and the mic audio together along with the video, all synced up and pre-ready to go for editing, that's something that I do with Open Broadcast Software, or OBS Studio. And I can show you that in a separate tutorial if you would like that. But if you are doing it your own way and just want to kind of go off of my editing, this is how I edit a video together. It's just that simple. Edited, exported, done. And I will see you guys next time. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, do all the socials. I wanted to help you guys out, and I'm excited I was able to do this for you. But please, the way to help me out back is by liking, commenting, and subscribing. It all puts me up higher in the search rankings, and it will really help my channel grow. So please do that. I will talk to you guys next time. Bye bye.